Hey guys, just wanted to touch base on the newest and latest trailer, the first trailer actually, for Spider-Man Homecoming, scheduled for release in 2017.
Yes, it's finally here, folks. That trailer that was pretty much an exclusive trailer for only those who went to Comic Con has finally been released to the general public. And I gotta say, I can understand the hype.
I do have to say that there are two versions of the trailer, one being the international one and one being the domestic one, and personally, I like the international one due to it focusing on the villains more and it having Vulture in the spotlight.
Yeah, definitely the international trailer focused more on the Spider-Man superhero factor and the villains, while the domestic one had more of the high school life, and it also showcases that Peter's identity does get revealed to who I'm assuming is his best friend. We definitely get to see a bit of the high school life, which very interesting there. It's typical Peter Parker is a loser, whatnot. One thing I really wish we could have seen in the trailer is maybe we could have seen like a brief mention of like Flash Thompson, perhaps, like him bullying Peter to really showcase the tough times in high school life, but that's just my personal opinion.
While we did not get Flash Thompson yet, mind you, the friend you did mention is Ned Leeds, and he is actually in the lore working at the Daily Bugle and just being a supporting cast member of Spider-Man. But that's who he is. The main thing I'm looking forward to is, like I said earlier, is how the Vulture seems to be running with a gang of criminals with high-tech material weapons that is definitely really upgraded and could be part of the Centauri fallout and people doing some xenotechnology upgrades to get some more street cred, because as Vulture said, as times move on, we have to move on with them. So from what I see is they were a low gang to a mob that rised up with the help of the Tinkerer and now have a volatile weapon base to their army.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see that the villains are very much getting a well-deserved upgrade here. But there is one thing within the trailer that I really have to discuss. Probably one of the biggest elephant in the room is where exactly is this movie lining up here? Like, it does seem that it's definitely going to be after Civil War based on the whole Peter Parker and Tony Stark interactions here. But if you pay close attention, there's a lot of scenes within the trailers where we see Peter in his old suit and not the new suit that Tony had made for him during Civil War. And the reason why part of us thinks it's a flashback, but also might be in the future, we see that Peter gets completely wrecked fighting the Vulture in his old costume. Makes me wonder, will something happen? Because we remember that Tony Stark is kind of taking a bit of the mentor slash possibly maybe some makeshift mentor, idol, father figure to Peter in the superhero world. And he stresses about how the suit and how he's not ready to be an Avenger. He's not ready to save the world. He needs to like stay close to the ground. And we also see scenes that Peter is kind of annoyed that these keep treating him like a child. And we all know how this always ends. Whenever there's an adult figure that tries to tell the teenager slash kid no about something, there's always going to be a rebellion. And once they rebel, they're going to fail at something, which is going to anger the adult figure and which is going to cause some sort of consequences here. So a lot of people speculating, including me, is that this exactly does happen. And as retaliation, Tony probably takes the suit away, which might explain why Peter is in his old suit when he's supposedly fighting the Vulture. That's my speculation there. Either that or it's a flashback.
Well, I don't think there's a flashback, but there are many flashbacks to this movie, and we could see from the international trailer that it will be deeply invested after Civil War. And this can be seen many times throughout, as when we see Peter in his science class learning about, I guess, geometry or something like that from the boards. But going from that, he was watching the video of himself taking down Ant-Man. Little narcissist, but what do you expect from a Tony Stark prodigy? And also, in that room, if you looked at the great scientists, you could see Bruce Banner right there along Einstein Edison, and many more.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting here with many homages to previous films here. I don't exactly think that when Peter was watching himself taking out Ant-Man, I don't exactly think he was a narcissist, because if you pay attention to his face and the way he was looking at it, it seemed more like he was kind of lost, so to speak. Like he was maybe a bit disappointed or maybe not quite satisfied with the type of publicity he's gotten. So maybe slight narcissism, more like he's trying to be a little bit critical of himself a little bit. And speaking of tie into Civil War, I do like that when you see Peter going into his room every time, you always see some sort of Star Wars paraphernalia in there, some type of like item going back to Star Wars, which can really drum up the whole reference with how he decided to take down Ant-Man in Civil War.
And it is funny how, while Ned learns that he is Spider-Man, the fact that he was holding a Lego Death Star that just shatters is kind of ironic, because the Death Star probably got hit in the exhaust valve, and that probably, made the thing explode. Little Star Wars jokes for you guys out there. But looking at the casting for this, it definitely is pretty well casted. And the thing that made me really think about some things is that we have Shocker in here, played by Bokeem Woodbine. He has these shock gauntlets, probably used by the Tinkerer to make the gang with Vulture even more deadly. Also, how you were mentioning Flash Thompson earlier, he is in this movie. He's played by Tony Revolori, and he is taking it a different route, kind of, only due to the fact that he isn't really the Flash Thompson you would expect as a blonde Caucasian guy. So from this, he's more of a Guatemalan-based character, Hispanic. So from that thing, it would just be a little bit interesting to see how the character maybe changes his role to fit his different ethnicity now instead of the comic.
Well, we've already known that from the beginning that they were already going with certain actors to play certain roles in different settings.
Zendaya is playing Michelle. Liz Allen, however, is going to be played by Laura Harrier, and she will be the main love interest of Peter Parker, dating back to the early days comics, which we can see them paying certain homages to previous roles in previous comics movies in this, such as the Web Wings, the scene where Peter has I would assume a yacht or a Carnival cruise ship held together by his web wings, paying an homage to Tobey Maguire in the first Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah, I think that's like an homage to the second movie when Peter was trying to stop the train. That was a very lovely scene here. So that's clearly them trying to pay tribute to Tobey Maguire there. Obvious tribute.
Now, the thing that definitely gets my attention is Donald Glover is in this movie, and we saw him clearly as one of the villains was going to fire his Xenotech at, I'd assume, Spider-Man.
Or just in the sky in general.
We couldn't really get a scene on what he was looking at, but however, he was there, and could Donald Glover be playing the uncle of Miles Morales? I think that would be a nice touch, only due to fans petitioning for him to be Miles Morales, but for obvious factors, he's too old at this point to play the character, which is unfortunate, but he could still be in the Spider-Man franchise, and he is. So that touch definitely happening.
I also would like this because this would finally kind of pave the way for us eventually getting a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie somewhere down the line. And I would greatly appreciate that. I know a lot of folks have been clamoring for that. So if Danny Glover is playing that role of Miles Morales' uncle, this can speculate a lot of good things in the future here, especially since one of the classmates in Peter's class, it was revealed named Cindy, which could also have been a callback to Cindy Moon, who eventually plays Silk here. So could potentially show something of the Spider-Verse, or it could just be an Easter egg. One can only hope here.
And now that we're just throwing people in there, one thing that is interesting is Martin Starr is in this movie, and you might not know him, and that's fine, but he had a non-speaking role in The Incredible Hulk, and he was identified as Amadeus Cho for the novelization of that movie. So he is 34 at this point, so that might be too old for Amadeus Cho, but if they go a different route, I guess they could go with that, which Amadeus Cho would be a nice touch due to his newest and more improved role in the Marvel Comics. But wherever this goes from here on out, all we know is that this will definitely be a movie that many people are expecting good things from. And while I am still hesitant on Tom Holland as Spider-Man, from what I've seen so far in this trailer, I am begrudgingly optimistic, and I prefer the villains in this movie to any of the heroes so far.
I will give it to Tom Holland that at least because there has been many of him, he's been, really working out to really, get the physique of Spider-Man. So I'll give him credit there, and hopefully he'll get a lot better of a characterization than in Civil War, because that was just ghastly. That was just not very good for Spider-Man in Civil War. So since we're getting a movie centered on him, there should really be no excuse as to why we don't get a full characterization of him. And if you watch the trailer, the one that was for the States, you definitely see that they're really trying to get back to the main roots of Spider-Man, where he's basically take down the bad guys and was also, cracking jokes at the same time. So it definitely does look optimistic. I am hopeful for it. I definitely understand why the folks who went to Comic-Con and saw this trailer first was definitely hyped up about it, but I'm still cautious. I'm still cautious here.
Now, until next time, remember, if you like anything in this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for latest videos in the nerd and otaku fandom, where we cover many other topics, including Star Wars,
Dragon Ball Super.
just to mention a few. But until next time, stay classy.
See ya.